Well, hello guys. It is Elsa and Clay back after our hiatus. How are you, Clay? It's good to see you finally.
I'm good. Yes, it was an extended hiatus. In fact, Elsa and I said 2 weeks. It turned into 3 weeks, the holidays and all. But we are back, and it is January, and we are happy to be back with y'all after the holidays.
Bold faith, real truth, no apologies. Stand your ground, say what you see. Elsa and Clay bring the truth out loud. No backing down, no bowing out. Turn it up, let freedom roll. This is the Elsa Kurt Show.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So Clay knows this, but I don't know if you guys know this. I'm sure I've talked about it. But so as you all, I do know you know this. We, of course, go to Florida for Christmas. What you don't know is that it's my second granddaughter's birthday on January 6th. Yes, J6. She's a J6 baby. Funny, right? Never going to forget that date, right? So my husband and I go for Christmas. We come back. We got back this time like on the 26th. And then I turn right back around and I go back. This time I went back on January 5th, the day before her birthday. So it's like such a quick, crazy turnaround. I'm home for whatever that is, like 10 days, maybe 9 days, I think. And then turn right back around and go back again. So I knew that, but I also forgot that. So I messaged Clay. I'm like, hey, I think we got to add on one more week to our hiatus, or you can do a solo show. And then I think you got sick, right? You were
I did. I did not get the super flu that's floating around. Maybe I got brushed by it, but some folks in my family did have it, and I thought for sure I was getting it. I just had like maybe a small 24-hour bug kind of thing. But I was definitely I was not in a position to do a solo show.
It was a big old nope. So we had a little extra pause there, but that's okay. We're back. We're refreshed. We are ready to roll. And of course, the news cycle did not stop on our behalf. I mean, I think that's very rude. The whole world should have just paused right along with us. Wouldn't everybody have loved that though? Like if everything just stopped, what would we do? What would anybody do
for the holidays?
Right.
If nothing else, but of
nothing else. No, it did not. As a matter of fact, in the meantime, while we were off enjoying our time or being sick, respectively, lots of things happened, like the Somalia, as Clay said before we started up, just Minnesota. Minnesota went buck wild again, not the first time. But yes, Nick Shirley, right? That's his name. Nick Shirley broke. He is an independent journalist, independent young guy, independent journalist. Pretty much single-handedly broke the story of the fraudulent Somali daycare centers that should be in. Where's my hand? Here it is. That should be in air quotes.
Learing Center.
The Learing Center, yes, a forever meme going forward now. Everything is, all about. If you guys don't know what that means, more than one, but the one in particular, this is supposed to be a running, operating, government-funded daycare center, and they misspelled learning. So Learing Center. That alone is enough to just make your eyebrows go really high up into your forehead. So yes, Minnesota ran large daycare subsidiary programs, investigations, and reporting uncovered cases where some daycare centers, and it's, we should make sure we say not all daycare centers, some daycare centers were billing the state for kids who weren't there, hours that didn't happen, or facilities that appeared empty. Millions of taxpayer money may have been, I love the may have been misused, were misused. Let's be real, were misused. Millions and millions of dollars went into these fake daycare centers. And what does the left say? What they always say, racism, you're racist for saying that.
Yeah. And really what happened was this unlocked systemic fraud.
Yeah.
Mostly through not all, but mostly through the Somali communities in Minnesota. And listen, folks, we all know the associated the people associated with this, Tim Waltz, Ilyan Omar, like it's all the same names. But really Nick Shirley, and if you haven't seen the film footage, I'm sure most of you have, if not all of you, he goes to this Learing center, opens the door. There's no kids there. There's clearly I won't say never, but there clearly has not been kids there in a long time. Him and the guy with him, they have, they confront the operators with, hey, there's supposed to be, X amount of kids here. Where are they? No kids there. And as people dug into the fraud from the daycares, they unraveled a lot of fraud within the state of Minnesota.
Right.
Again, mostly in the Somali communities, to the tune of over $9 billion, I think was the latest that I saw. Some of the great analysis that I have seen is that this is, when we say systemic fraud, it's almost systematic fraud. And here's a great example. So you've got the daycares, right? But the example I saw was about healthcare. So you've got Somalis, vast majority of the households are on government assistance. And a lot of these are kids and people who have they're second generation now, right?
Yeah.
So you've got a Somali headed household, but they've got naturalized children born in the United States who speak English. These people actually, many of them do speak English, but when they go to a doctor's appointment, they suddenly do not speak English,
right?
Which requires the state now to call and move a $100 an hour translator of Somali descent to the doctor's appointment, right?
Yep.
To translate for the person who actually does speak English. But they're now it's a free healthcare appointment with a $100 an hour translator, another Somali who's getting paid. Oh, by the way, the transportation system to get these people to and from the doctor's appointments also run by Somalis, right? And they're charging the state exorbitant rates to get people to these doctor's appointments, and so on and so forth. So it's all this interwoven cultural fraud that is being unlocked and uncovered across the state of Minnesota. And it's insane how deep this thing runs.
It is so insane. And we're just scratching the surface, and I can't even say we, I mean, people like Nick Shirley and, everyone else who jumped on that essentially after or at the same time, whatever the case is, and just said, hang on, let me go check this out. Let me ask some questions. Let me physically go there. And, it's kind of embarrassing in a way like that. Wow, this is what it took. Like, you have all of these resources, all of these people who are supposed to be doing, within our own government that are supposed to be keeping an eye on things like this. And it took this independent journalist with, no backing, nobody funding him, not that I'm aware of at least, just to literally go knock on the door and say, hey, what's up, guys? What you got going on here? And that is what blew this whole thing up. And of course, what is, again, my favorite question, what does the left do? What is the left doing? This guy is getting death threats and his family's getting doxxed and all of these things. And it's, another extension of the constant madness that goes on, that this is our money, like American taxpayer money. We're being robbed. And these lunatic liberals, because this is during the Trump administration, are angry about it. Like, you let those Somalis take all of our money. Damn it. So crazy to me.
Yeah, it is. And so there are some good things that have come out of it, right? Governor Waltz is now no longer running for another term as governor, which he blamed on President Trump. Not
of course.
Having to do
nothing
with
that he did. No.
Dollars of fraud or anything that's going on in Minnesota.
Right.
President Trump's fault because of targeting Tim Waltz. All right, so that's a good thing that he is
finally a good thing. Yes,
we've now exposed the mayor of Minneapolis, who is a Class A piece of garbage, and a panderer, and all of those things. Right, all of this it's very apparent that this is being done for votes. It's paid for votes. Their conduct is bringing that to light. But the other thing is that we're starting to have great examples because there's such evidence of the fraud going on, right? Yeah. This is not made up. There's just way too much evidence out there. But I saw on another podcast that I enjoy, and I don't know if you've ever seen these two ladies, but it's called Chicks on the Right.
I love them. I love them. Yes, they're terrific.
Saw a little highlight from their podcast, and it was a man on the street interview, and I think it was in Southern California, right? It was definitely in a warm place. And they were just asking, hey, how do you feel about the Somali fraud in Minneapolis or in Minnesota? And these people were openly saying, oh, I think it's all a lie. I don't think there's really anything there.
Yeah.
I think it's all, and so there are people who still are in an absolute state of denial.
Yeah.
No matter what evidence is presented in front of them.
Won't matter. It's all fake news to them.
Right.
They will not believe it.
And so now we have there is tangible evidence of TDS because that's really what this is. You can show somebody empirical evidence, accounting evidence, all of these things, and it really doesn't matter.
No, it does not matter at all.
So now we've got proof. We've got proof that it's a real thing.
Right. Yeah, I think the only way, you literally cannot win because listen, I can be fair about this. If that were a left-leaning independent journalist who discovered this, who unearthed all of this, I think it's probably fair to say that the right would say, BS. I don't know. Would we? Something like this, if he uncovered that, it's just not even something they would do. It's impossible to even imagine. They would not uncover.
I don't think we would. I don't think the right would. And so here's why. And I have this discussion over and over again, right?
Yeah.
The reality of the left is their reaction is scream racism, right? Misogyny, sexism, whatever ism that is appropriate for the situation. So they'll throw an ism out there first.
Right.
Then it will be protest, and then it will become violence, right?
Oh, yeah. There's no question.
The right never escalates beyond an ism.
No, we definitely would never escalate the way that they do. I just mean that we wouldn't, if it was something coming from the left, would we believe it to be true?
I think with the amount of empirical evidence, I honestly believe that most conservatives, rational people would look at it and go, well, that's just effed up. And they would accept it as the truth. There would be some stereotypes, there would be some labeling, there would be all of those things that go along with it. But I think more readily the conservative side of the aisle will admit, no matter the source, as long as there's empirical evidence and it's not opinion. Yeah. I think the right is much more accepting of that kind of information when it's backed up by fact.
Yeah. I like to hope so. I like to believe that's the case. I'm a little salty here because of the whole Candace Owens thing, because I which is unrelated. Obviously it might be a little bit of apples and oranges here, but I mean it in the sense that, because there is a faction of the right that are, just diehard Candace Owens fans. And I don't have a whole heck of a lot against her or her making money off of what she does, more power to. But it's what she's been doing and how, in my opinion, that she's gone completely off the rails and, doesn't back anything up with actual evidence or anything like that. So I've been making fun of her pretty hard. I've been doing some parodies of her and all this, just having a good time with it. And, people on our side have, come out pretty aggressively, in the comment section. It's like, wow. So you're going to just throw away any ounce of reserve, I guess, or pause for thought, and you're just going to go full rabid. And, and again, I have no problem with people disagreeing with me. Tell me you disagree in the comments. There are plenty of people who just simply disagreed with me in the comments and simply stated as much like, well, I don't agree with you. I think you're wrong. I think Candace is right. And I think she, and
there's
that's
talismans. There's some people on the right that have been, I won't say dubbed untouchable, but there are some that people will defend blindly. I think Candace has a following like that. I think Tucker has a following like that. Megyn Kelly has a following like that. Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh. But you could also say the same thing. And I've taken a lot of heat about my stance on Secretary Hegseth.
Yeah, they come for you. Yeah, they do.
After me. And it's because there's this level of blind loyalty. That's why I said, I think with empirical evidence, not opinion, I think that the right is much more accepting to say, yeah, we blew that one. But I will also say there is plenty of, defending the indefensible based on opinion. So I don't think, either side of the aisle is better one way or the other based on opinion. I think just
Right.
based on factual evidence, I think the right is much more accepting.
Yeah. Yeah. I would absolutely agree with that for sure. Definitely. So it kind of, geez, I mean, this probably could be just like one long episode just talking about everything Minnesota, right? Everything that goes on there. But my goodness. But I have to say one more time, I'm so glad to see Tim Walz take a hit here. I'm so glad to see that. Again, it's never going to be enough until I see criminal charges. I'm not really going to be happy about anything. And I think that I speak for a lot of people when we're talking about this level of fraud and corruption and all of those things. It's like, that's great that he's not going to run again. But where are the criminal charges? How about that? Let's see that, please. Come on now. And maybe we will. Maybe we will. I don't know. It gets really hard to continuously hope for things that should happen and not see them happen. But again, I also like to always say we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We're not. I know some people think that because we do this, we're like insiders. Somebody actually told me with that whole Candace Owen thing that I'm, they bought me. They're paying me off. I'm collecting a big fat paycheck. I'm like, dude, somebody tell my bank account that news because
I'd love to be paid off.
Right? Pay me off. Do it. Do it.
Yeah.
I dare you. Kidding, they can't buy us, guys. I mean, so this actually brings us pretty well into the next topic, which is the recent incident of activist Renee Good and getting shot and killed by an ICE agent after she basically tried to run him over, which obviously is hotly disputed between different factions. I can't wait to hear your perspective on this. I'll tell you mine. I mean, I can't imagine nobody, that there's somebody that doesn't know any of this. But just in case you don't, Renee Good encountered ICE agents during a federal operation in Minnesota. Video shows her vehicle making contact with an ICE agent. Federal officials say the agent was struck and injured. In response, the agent fired his weapon, killing her. This was not a traffic stop. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a professional agitator purposely blocking legal, authorized federal agents from doing their job. Her entire purpose, along with other people, for being in that location that day was to disrupt, distract, and cause absolute chaos and stop federal agents from doing their job, which their job, by the way, is to be there to remove illegal aliens, criminal illegal aliens from the area and send them back where they came from or put them in jail, whatever the case is. So that's what they were there to stop and disrupt. She was told on video, there is multiple videos out. She was told by multiple agents multiple times to move her vehicle, to get out of the way. She mocked them. Her wife standing outside the car, which I don't know why she was outside the car, filming them, getting right up in their face, which they can record, of course. You can record agents, police officers doing their job. However, you can't impede their work. You can't become a hazard or problem. So yeah, they were being verbally abusive, mocking them, all of those things. All of that, you know what? Fine. Not fine, but you know what I mean. Fine, do the things, but you also need to comply with direct orders. She did not. She had her car. The video shows that, her car is parked blocking the roadway. And of course, she did that deliberately so that they could not get by. So that's why they're telling her to move, get out of the vehicle, first move. And then I think they told her get out of the vehicle, because she was obviously about to be arrested. The wife yells, drive, baby, drive. At which point so here's where I think everybody's like contesting it. Like she backed up a little bit and then hit the gas pedal. But what people are arguing about is the direction the wheels are facing as she goes forward. But what people are also missing is that the tire is spinning. She's spinning on ice. So she hit that gas pedal pretty good. And the wheels spun. Now, did that make the wheels turn? Was she turn? I don't know what she was trying to do. What matters here is that the federal agent who was in front of the car, or front to the side of the car, he wasn't like dead center of it, I don't think. At that point, he had started to move over to the side, at which point, that's when the forward momentum happened. She hit him. This is proven now from his own camera release. He was hit, because that was disputed as well. They said that, she didn't hit him. She was trying to drive away, blah, blah, blah. He was struck. At which point, the moment that vehicle starts coming towards you as a federal agent, you are within your right to stop the threat, because now the vehicle is a weapon. She's using the vehicle as a weapon, or it's being perceived that the vehicle is being used as a weapon. And I think that's important to point out too. Whether her intention was to use it as a weapon or not isn't necessarily relevant here. It is the perceived threat, not only to the officer, but to anyone around him. So it is his job to protect himself and others. And so he shot, struck her car continued. Obviously, I think she may have been, maybe she died immediately, who knows, but the car kept going, struck another vehicle. That's that. And of course, all of the aftermath. Cars are a deadly weapon. I'm sorry, guys. And it was being used as a threat, as a deadly weapon. And none of this would have happened if she had been home with her kids that day, or at work, or having a coffee in a cafe, or just living a normal freaking life, instead of inserting yourself into something that had nothing to do with you. That's my opinion. People don't like it. I don't care. This entire thing was clouded from the very beginning, and both sides of this, incident are kind of guilty. And when I say both sides, I'm not talking about her versus the ICE agents. I'm talking about, the conservative versus liberal perspectives, right? Yeah.
So this happens, and then we get one camera angle. That camera angle, showed an ICE officer trying to open the door. You couldn't see the officer who got shot, or the officer who got hit with the vehicle from that initial camera angle. Then we got another camera angle, which was from, it seemed like an apartment building.
Yeah.
You could see the agent
angle
in front of the car, which, it did look like she missed him, or he tried to jump out of the way. And then, so as all of this evolved, right, you had the video releases of all kinds. You had another one taken from an apartment. And this is the 3-minute and 30-second video, which is so important to the context of everything that happened.
Yeah.
Because there was a narrative that she was on her way to a doctor's appointment. There was a narrative that she was just out running errands. There was a narrative that she was just trying to get out of the way. There were all of these things. And in reality, as you said, she parked her SUV, whatever it was, perpendicular on a residential street, backed on one side by parked cars, and she had been sitting there for 3 minutes. Okay. That throws all of the outrunning errands, doctor's appointment, trying to get out of there. All of those narratives died immediately as soon as that perspective, that camera angle came out. Yes, some of the ICE vehicles went around her because she couldn't block the entire thing. However, she was impeding the speed at which they were trying to execute the operation that they were on. So there's problem number one. But you're right. As, ICE agents approached, they told her to move. They told her to get out. People, vehicles went around her. And then finally, you had the agents get out of their vehicle. Her window was open.
Yeah.
That we got the body camera footage where he got out. She talked some smack to him. He walks around the back of the vehicle. Her wife is there with the cell phone, talking about the license plate. She actually even said in there, "We're vets," or "I'm a vet," or something like that, trying to say that she's a veteran. There's no record of her service of any kind anywhere.
Yeah.
And then he comes around the other side of the vehicle. Eventually, they tell her to get out of the vehicle. And in the meantime, you got a couple of agents moving in and around, and one of them stepped in front of the vehicle, right? And that's when drive, baby, drive, right? And she hit gas, and she hit the agent, which we now released today, found out that he had internal bleeding from being struck. Okay. So this was not a miss or even a near miss or even a bump or a rub or any other adjective that you want to use. Got hit by a vehicle. And he discharged his weapon to protect himself and everybody around him, and he shot her. Yeah. And, then there was narratives that followed about her past and her wife's past. Okay.
Mhm.
You've probably seen this. There was a criminal record sheet
I
with
saw
her
that.
picture,
Mhm.
totally fabricated.
Yeah.
All right, folks, for anybody who thinks that that stuff is okay or a good idea, you're not helping. All right.
No.
I know. And that came from the conservative side of things.
Yeah.
All right. That you're not, by fabricating a rap sheet that doesn't exist for this woman, you're not helping things.
No.
Okay.
No. Let the facts be the facts, period.
Yeah.
That's it.
And as this has unraveled and we've seen more camera angles and all of these things, it's all there. The ICE officer did what he was supposed to do. There is nothing, and there's people who have tried to say, oh, well, Minnesota signed a statute, blah, 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 blah. I looked it up myself. The things that were quoted in the statute were not in the statute, right?
Yeah.
So, there are narratives on both sides that are counterproductive to what is going on.
Yes.
Our concerns should be, one, for the ICE agent,
Mhm.
two, in that follow-up, his family, the safety of his family, because we know the doxing and everything else that comes out, right?
Yeah.
The agent's name was released,
Yeah.
again, a form of, not by DHS and not by ICE, but by somebody else.
Right.
So there's that. We need to be concerned about Renee Good's children for their welfare and well-being.
Yeah.
I honestly, you can say all you want about her ex-husband, the reason they divorced. I don't care, right? That truthfully, in the moment of what happened, is completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Is she a paid protester? Yes. Is her and her wife also a paid protester? Yes. Are they agitators as people? Yes. Should they have been there? No. The reality is this is a series of bad decisions that put her in a position that got her killed.
Right.
What we collectively as human beings need to worry about are the fact that no one in her circle of friends or family looked at her and said, stop doing this.
Yeah.
No one looked at her and said, you have children that you are responsible for, at least one, right? We know that there's three. That's the story I've heard. She has, custody of one, the other two are somewhere, whatever.
Yeah.
But no one around her looked at her and said, you are going to get yourself or someone else hurt or killed.
Right.
And she is just an example of that.
Yeah.
You can take that and you can lay that on every single one of these paid protesters.
Yeah.
You are going to get yourself or someone else hurt or killed. Please stop doing this for your safety, for everyone else's safety.
Yeah.
But no one is saying that. And that societally, in society, that is part of the problem, is that these people, and it makes me wonder, like, was her circle of friends, one, an echo chamber of just people just like her, or was it just her lunatic spouse?
Right.
Like, was there no one else in her circle to tell her this is a horrible idea?
Right. If you just use just the photos that they've presented, if you just look at it as a timeline in a way,
sure,
and you see this drastic appearance change in someone, and we're not talking about just simply aging. We're not just talking about getting older. We're talking about a drastic appearance change in someone. So something has happened in this period of time, from the time, the picture that they are using constantly, which I think was she might have been pregnant with one of her kids in the photo. It's like a beach photo, and she looks very normal, very relaxed and happy and normal, right? And that's the photo that they're running with, the media is running with, and the left is running with. Because why are they using that one? Because she looks normal. She looks like somebody's mom, nice lady, probably going to pick her kid up from soccer. That's what she looks like, right? In that picture. But then you see the images and the stills and the video from that day, and recent pictures of her from her own social media that people mined. And you see a very, very different looking woman there. Someone who does not look okay, does not look like she's feeling good about life and things. And, this is that, sorry guys, but this is the prototype of the radical liberal white female of the 2020s. This is what they look like. If the hair isn't blue, or if the, septum isn't pierced, or there isn't 500 tattoos. And I love tattoos. I'm not mocking tattoos at all. But there is a whole vibe that they all seem to have. And that's what she had. So, I'm really dispassionately curious about, just kind of conversationally curious. Like, I'm not going to delve into it. But man, oh man, what happened between then and now to make you the way that you are? It's not okay. And maybe it's something to do with this woman, this wife that she, got involved with. And, maybe that was the start of this radicalization. I don't know. I just know, and I talked about this yesterday. I did a little mini solo podcast, Clay, I did yesterday. And I put that in the whole topic was liberal white females and the, the behaviors and the mentality and the reasoning behind why they do what they do. And it kind of comes down to, in my mind, it comes down to like, we were designed for purpose, to not only on purpose, by purpose, to have purpose in life, to have meaning, and to be focused on something of meaning in our lives. And traditionally, our focus, particularly as females, is to, be nurturers, to raise families, to have children, and to be a part of something bigger than ourselves, which is the raising of children and caring for our families and all of those things. And now in modern society, this culture tells you all of the things that are what were once very normal to do and biologically normal to do are now offensive, insulting, boring, useless, impractical, whatever, and inconvenient. All of the things that nature tells us, society, culture is saying is wrong and bad, no good. So you have these people who are, either not having kids or not putting them at the value level of where we would have once upon a time. And so what do? They need purpose. They need a cause. They need something to believe in. They need something to be passionate about. So they take on these activist roles, and now they have to be like the caretakers of morality. Like everybody's morality is their responsibility. And they go to these psychotic, unhealthy extremism. And this is a direct result of that mentality, of that type of directionlessness and grounding. There is no grounding. And this is what you get. And now you see like the aftermath of this whole like litany of deranged liberal white females. I don't know. I feel like they just keep proving my point.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I mean, I've seen it, across social media, dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and it's really come to light even since like, Ukraine flags in the front yard. But the sentiment that's repeated is, the most dangerous thing in America is a college-educated suburban white woman in her 40s. Like yes. Because that's where so much of this comes from. And if you look in the crowds of protesters, that is just by the eye, right? I'm not talking any studies, nobody's taking polls, but if you just look at the protesters across, wherever, and it doesn't matter, it's not just Minnesota, it's LA, it's New York, it's everywhere. Right. But what you perpetually see are white women. And when you narrow it down, that's somewhere in their, mid 30s to maybe even 60, right? That is the demographic that we continue to see. Just alongside,
and the only males that you see with them out there protesting
Skinny
are
jean,
low
man bun.
Low
it's
T,
all those guys.
right? Low 100%. T. Low T beta males, soy boys.
Yeah, the picture thing is an old tactic, right? And this has been going on. If you live in any near or around any major metropolitan area where there's gang violence, right? I'm a Chicago area kid. You will always see, right, when a young man is killed in a violent way due to crime. Trayvon Martin's a great example, right? Yes. You see the graduation picture, right? You see the picture from, when they were 11, and then you find out that they were 17, that they're now 17. But it's this very, like, the most innocent looking photo they can find. And then inevitably, not long after, another photo surfaces of the individual. And it is the stereotypical gangbanger, right? It's all of those things. But everybody wants the sympathy shot first, which is the picture that you're talking about with Renee Good, and that's what you get. You get the happy, the suburban mom, the makeup and all these things. But then you see her sitting in the car and you're like, Is that
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
even the same person?
And there's your hypocrisy too, right?
Oh,
Like they
100%.
know damn
They know
well
exactly
that
what they're
that picture is not going to
100%.
garner the sympathy. They know, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Others. Yeah.
So, you know, really the ICE agent is recovering. You know, I'm sure that him and his family are going to go into some sort of protective custody.
Yeah.
You know, their life is going to be uprooted if he chooses to continue to work for the organization, which I assume he will. By the way, this is the second time that he's been hit by a vehicle in the line of duty.
Yes, he was pretty banged up.
Yeah. So, you know, if he chooses to stay working for ICE as an agent, you can almost guarantee that his family is going to be picked up and moved. They will be relocated, uprooted, all of those things for their own protection.
Yeah.
Because that's where we're at right now.
Right.
And so, you know, you can point fingers and place blame, and you can say President Trump and Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and you know, Bondi, and you blame everybody that you want. The reality is that woman made a series of bad decisions that put her in a place that she didn't need to be.
Yeah.
This wasn't civil disturbance. This wasn't civil disobedience. This was actively agitating and interfering with an ongoing investigation, and then assaulting an officer, which you know, ended in her being shot.
Yeah.
So point all the fingers you want. You can, I mean, we can all play the same game, and you can blame it on President Biden. You can blame it on you know, if the Somali community hadn't been rife with fraud, that wouldn't, you know, is a contributing factor. But you know, this is about personal accountability, and I don't like the FAFO, like it's being overplayed, but this is about personal accountability. And that woman made a series of bad decisions where no one stepped in and told her it was a bad idea, and it got her killed. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, she is the last person that's being blamed.
Right. Yeah.
When she should be the first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Zero, like you said, zero personal accountability here. And also, like you said, to your point, if we're going to be playing this long list of blame game where you deflect it to everyone else, I mean, then you've got, you know, go all the way back to the beginning of creation then. You know, that's if you want to play that game. Give me a break. Ultimately, had she not made those decisions, this would have never happened. It could not have happened because she wouldn't have been in a position for that to happen. And that is not victim blaming, because she's not a victim. She's an agitator.
Of her getting killed is for making bad decisions.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and I stay true to my word. I don't get into it in the comment section with people, but one glance at those comment section tells you, you know, how many people have no idea whatsoever how law enforcement acts and response. Like they don't understand the protocols of what happens in any incidents like these. You know, I love they couldn't shoot the tires out. Well, they couldn't just do, just stop. You just sound silly. You just do.
Yeah. It's not the movies, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Not the movies, guys. Real life, real people, real split second decisions are being made. And if you ask me, when you look at it through that lens, a split second decision, when you see how heavy your car is, like
3,000 pounds.
Thank you. Yeah. I was going to say 2,000 pounds, but it's so in that range. Yeah.
It's a weapon.
Yeah. Simple as that. Yeah. But oh my goodness, let's talk about Bill and Hill.
Talk about lack of personal accountability.
How about that? They're the poster children for that, right? And you know, as usual, they seem to always get away with stuff. You know, if you're Bill and Hill, subpoenas are apparently optional. We'll just ignore that. We're not going to show up because we don't think we have to, right? House Oversight subpoenaed Bill and Hillary Clinton in an Epstein-related inquiry. They declined. I love that. They declined to comply, calling the subpoenas political and illegitimate. And Republicans are now discussing contempt proceedings. Like that last part just annoys the daylights out of me. It goes right back to what we were talking about before. Like, what's going to happen? Like, really, what's going to happen? They're just going to shake their finger at them. The
Clintons broke the system, and the system was for decades that a president left office and went back to their life. They offered advice and counsel to sitting presidents, right? There was a very small club of living former presidents who were always available to whoever the current president was, because who else do you go to, right?
Yeah, right.
There's not a lot of people that can advise you. So when you left office, you left quietly. You generally remained out of politics, and were there for counsel if asked, and remained at the service of the nation if required, right?
Yeah.
President Carter is probably the most famous former president who on a number of occasions stepped into diplomatic scenarios to offer some help, some actual help. Regardless, when the Clintons left office, and mostly because of Hillary, Secretary Clinton, when they left the White House, it was under a flurry of, remember they popped all the W's off of the keyboards and they glued stuff. And it was really, their staff was terrible. But they were not allowed to leave the political world because she was stepping into it.
Yeah.
And so by default, President Clinton remained relevant in the political world, and remained a voice that people went to while President Bush was in office. And then, President Bush, truthfully, when he did spend, probably the first year or so blaming President Clinton, and then 9/11 happened, and then it really didn't matter anymore.
Right.
And so he spent the next 7 years, engrossed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then he left. And then the Obamas came in, right? And then the Obamas spent their entire administration blaming the Bushes, which didn't allow them to leave the public eye, right? There was always this reference back to the Bushes. And then President Obama, more so than anybody as he left office or after he left office, has remained politically relevant and in the system. And so, when the Mar-a-Lago happened, I wrote about this. You and I have talked about this before. Yeah. They opened Pandora's box because when you are a former president and you left office, essentially everyone left you alone.
Right.
You left everybody alone. They left you alone. You were given this presidential kind of just leave them there. Whatever happened during their administration, just leave them alone. And then Mar-a-Lago happened. And so Pandora's box was opened.
Right.
And as soon as that happened, the Clintons became a primary target for every conservative.
Yeah.
Mostly because they were the ones who broke the system. And then now you've got this. And they are literally thumbing their nose at the American government. They have been subpoenaed related to Epstein. And they basically said, no, we're not doing it. We don't care. Yeah.
Can you imagine if you or I did that? No.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding?
No, thanks. I decline.
Yeah. Subpoena for court? No, I'm not going. Sorry.
I don't feel like it.
So, I was asked why they would just not show up. And here's the two things. One, if they showed up, they would lie, right? So they would be put under oath and they would lie. And Bill's already been, found in, perjury, right? It's happened. He perjured himself before.
Yes.
She has also perjured herself before, right? So they're not above that. So bringing them in, and even if they showed up, it would be perjury, guaranteed, because they're admitting nothing. Yeah. And if they sat up there and they plead the fifth, it looks terrible anyway. So they're certainly not going to come willingly. And so the opposite is we're just not coming. And they are forcing the current administration to come to the House with U.S. Marshals to arrest them.
It's so crazy.
And now that makes them martyrs.
Right.
So it's a genius play by the Clintons.
Sure.
They have taken the path that makes them, even though it's completely illegal, that makes them potentially look the best in the outcome.
Right. Oh, yeah, sure. Nothing more, for the left, at least in this case, nothing more heartstring pulling than to see these two elderly people being let out in handcuffs, and they're, sad, like, what faces. I mean, I don't care. I would applaud, but
it needs to happen, right?
It does. I mean, I think it absolutely does need to happen. Like,
I mean,
bring the cops, bring them out. Them.
President Trump got indicted, right? He got he got all. So no one was shot.
Mug shots, right? Like there's it's hanging up in the Oval Office. His mug shot, right? Like he hung that thing up proud. It absolutely has to happen. They are making a mockery. They are thumbing their nose, and that's just a big fat no. You are criminals. You are as criminal as they get, and more so than we will ever know.
Oh yeah.
No matter what comes out, we will never know all of it. And it's just the case. You know, and I think everybody's really tired of these congressional hearings, to be honest with you. Like, don't you think everybody has like fatigue over these things because nothing happens? They show up, you know, even when they do show up, right?
Yeah. The problem is nothing happens afterwards. No one gets arrested. No one gets in criminal court. They testify in front of Congress, and that seems to be the end of it, right?
Yeah, and I don't really understand that. So what is exactly the point of these other than to just put on a show, waste everybody's time and tax dollars because, it's costing us money for this to be going on. All these investigations, the years spent on these investigations, the dollars that go into these investigations, and for them to just, I don't know. I mean, you can't even call it like a public embarrassment anymore because these people don't care. They just sit up there and go, I do not recall. I don't recall. And that's it. And then they go home, they go on their yacht, they go on vacation, and they, collect their insider trading stocks, money, and have a good old time. Like, no consequence, damn it.
If it was very much in the same vein of President Reagan, who, when he testified Iran-Contra, right, and said, I do not recall, he really didn't, because he was in a mental decline. If you put Joe Biden on the stand right now and he said, I don't recall, I would believe him, because he probably doesn't. But President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush, right? There's no evidence of declined mental faculties, those kinds of things. And so, President Clinton, most of us dislike his wife, Secretary Clinton. She is politically criminal.
Yes.
I think he is criminal code criminal. Like we all know the multiple affairs, the sexual assaults, all of those things. Like, that is President Clinton's personality. Right. There's enough evidence out there that we all kind of know it. But Secretary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, is the one who truthfully is the most dangerous in criminality. Like, we're talking international espionage, federal level election tampering, like all of those things. I honestly think at this point in their lives, Bill just sits there and he just does nothing. She is the one who is the actual problem. Right. But they can't be allowed to say no to Congress. Yeah. Like, this is not a thing, especially after what happened to President Trump. Exactly.
Yeah. If they let this go, if they let this happen, then that is the opening for everyone to just simply refuse, just to say, nope, no, thank you, decline, bye. So they're going to have to be made an example of. And, and let's face it, no matter what, the other side is going to have something to say. You know what I mean? So if you don't do it, they have something to say. If you do it, they have something to say. So just do it. Just do it, because it doesn't matter, So yeah,
I'm going to make a prediction, and I know you love my predictions. There will be a former president buried in Arlington by the end of summer, and he will never testify.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there will be a cardiac event. Folks, I'm telling you right now, this is Clay Novak. I'm not threatening anyone.
No, I know you got to make sure that's clear.
I'm being very clear. Yes. Right. All I am saying is that former President Bill Clinton, his health status right now is suspect enough, right? We all know, we've all seen him. He looks terrible.
Oh my gosh, it's horrendous. Terrifying.
He will never testify. No. And I will tell you that his health will either rapidly decline or there will be a sudden event that makes it incapable of him testifying. And then he will eventually die before he ever testifies. Yeah. And Secretary Clinton will use that as a Heisman to prevent her from testifying, et cetera, et cetera. But that is my prediction, ladies and gentlemen.
It would not surprise me. It would not surprise me at all. And so the only thing I can hope for based off of that is to see her on the stand fighting for her life, so to speak. Don't know if it'll happen. Yep. At this rate, I have such low expectations of seeing any of these things actually happen, but one can hope.
One can hope. Yes.
One can hope. All right, let's talk about a fun one. I don't know. Is it fun? I mean, yes and no. We've got our current president who flipped the bird. He just flipped the bird. And I go, but listen, I'm seeing this from all angles. I'll be honest. I see this from all angles. My knee jerk, my gut quick reaction, if you were to ask for that one, I would say would be to kind of go, well, I mean, yeah, the guy was calling him a pedophile and shouting out all kinds of garbage, trash talking at him and everything. And he dropped an FU and the one finger salute. What's that?
Twice.
Yeah. Yes. And did what any of us would have probably done in the same circumstance. Now I get it. The other side of that, which I also agree with, by the way, is that we would like to see more decorum from the leader of our country. Yes, we would like to see more self-control and reserve in all of those things. Yeah. Am I going to admonish him for this? I think I'm going to pass. I think I'm going to pass on the admonishment, even though my core does have a preference for a certain type of behavior. But, I don't know. I mean, you're a human being and you get to a point, this is a guy as a human being. This is a guy who is a father. He is a grandfather. He is the president of the United States. And to get constantly assaulted with these kind of vile, disgusting accusations and attacks on not even just on a daily basis, on like a minute basis, like every minute of every day, somebody is, excuse me, people, but somebody's MFing him to his face. So he is not given an ounce of respect. And there does come a point where you're kind of like, I'm not, somebody's screaming this at me. I'm not going to give you, respect or grace for it. So I don't know. Go ahead, Clay. Go ahead and correct me.
No, I'm not going to correct you. I'm not a fan of this. I've said this since the last administration. I would like him to act better. However, I'm going to go different than I normally do. There are two things about this. One, communication to the audience in the way that the audience is going to receive your message is very important. And you're talking to a factory full of auto workers in Detroit, because that's who this was.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to speak their language, which is exactly what he did. He did look at a guy, a blue collar guy, probably a UAW union guy.
Yeah.
If he's in an auto plant in Michigan, and he used language that those individuals use on the floor of a factory on a minutely basis, right?
Right.
So he sent the message, and he used it in the, used the language that it was appropriate for the audience. Again, I would prefer that he doesn't, but in this case, I think it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
The thing that I wish would have happened was that the rest of the folks around that guy would have turned around and fixed it themselves.
Yes.
Because again, we are in this, you can't do anything. You can't touch anybody. You can't, this is a course correction for that individual that needed to happen from his peers. There needed to be 6 guys around him that turned around, 2 guys grabbing him by the arms and 1 guy punching him in the face. And then the other 2 guys grabbing his legs and dragging him out of there. That's what should have happened.
Yeah.
And I think that those are the things that we need to see more of. We need to go back to that instant, here's karma. Here's target feedback, as we like to call it, right? you know that you struck gold when you get that kind of feedback. But that's what I mean. Somebody should have popped that guy in the mouth.
Yeah.
And I know there's repercussions. I did see right before we started recording, I think that guy has been fired. Good. Or at least suspended at work. And I'm okay with that too. Yeah. It's not conduct that any company would want representing them. Right. So I'm okay with that. But I really wish that somebody standing next to him, some other blue collar dude in jeans and a t-shirt, would have turned around and, and busted his lip for him and told him to shut the F up himself. But in this singular case, I'm giving the president a pass.
I love that. I think we were both very fair about how we presented that, because we agree on that. We absolutely agree on that. That there are certain, expectations that we would like to have, but we are living in a very different time. This is just a totally different space and time that we're living in, when it's not just and I really don't want to hear, particularly especially from anyone on the left, talking about the expectations of the leader or the blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear from you when your party says the most vile, disgusting, offensive things every single day, literally swearing on the camera. I mean, at least he didn't have a mic on him and wasn't shouting it into a microphone. That was like an exchange caught on camera because of who he is and who they are and what was going on. But it wasn't like a hot mic moment, like Jasmine Crockett telling everybody F you. Didn't she just tell the Supreme Court to F off? Yeah. I think, I don't even know if it was her, but it was one of them. So give me a break. I don't want to hear any, posturing from them that they're shocked and appalled or anything like that. Don't care. Cry more.
We're going to talk about Iran, folks. This is kind of the last topic we're going to cover in this show. There is a regime change coming. And so for those of you that don't know the history of it, prior to 1979, Iran, was a very westernized, modern country that was not an Islamist-based Islamic republic. They had a monarchy under the Shah, there was a youth movement in 1979. I know that sounds weird, but they were hardline Muslim youth movement that overthrew the government, threw the Shah out of the country. He died shortly thereafter in Egypt. And they installed the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, quote unquote, religious leader, with a communist, although they claim democratically elected government. What's happening now, 45 years later, is that the script is being flipped. There is the Iranian people are tired of Sharia law. They are most of them, I think the last number I saw was 78%, do not want an Islamic republic of any kind as their government. They don't want a religious-based government of any kind. They're actually, completely fine with going back, having the prince come back and reestablish the monarchy. But there are protests going on in Iran right now. For those of you that haven't seen it on the news, I have someone I consider a friend. I worked with her when I worked on season 3 of Reacher on Amazon. She was in charge of really all the sets and set designs. And she reached out to me a week ago, maybe a little longer, asking some questions, some military questions about things going on both in Venezuela and Iran. And she is Iranian. Her family, she still has family living in Iran underneath and participating in all of this. So her and I have been back and forth, and it's been a great perspective for me to hear and see the things that she's saying or that she's getting from her family. I will tell you just off the top, the one that caught me most off guard was when they tell you how many fatalities there have been. She said quadruple it.
Whoa.
And this was at a time when they said it was 45 to 50. She said it's easily 200. So there's that going on that we're not seeing. Iran shut off all of the internet access specifically to block out the West. They do not want news cameras. They do not want information coming out. I know Musk tried to put some Starlink in there, but I would tell you that those folks that either received it or are putting it in place are putting their lives at risk. Because if the Iranian government finds out about it, it's not going to be, hey, we're going to confiscate that. They're going to confiscate people's lives for that stuff. But really, folks, what we all need to know and understand is that Iran, when this regime change happens, and I think very reluctantly, the U.S. should be involved with this. I think the intelligence community, CIA, and some others should be, if they're not already actively involved with this. But we are going to see a significant turn in the Middle East. When this goes to a non-theocratic, a non-religious based, democratic, even if it's a monarchy, when you see Islam leave Iran, you're going to see a drastic change across the Middle East.
Right. Well, I would imagine it would start a whole chain reaction, right? I mean, if they can do, that mentality, if they can do it, we can do it.
Well, so what's been going on, truthfully, since the Shah was deposed and since there's been this massive Islamic movement, is what we're seeing in Europe, right? We're starting to see this radicalization of all of the migrant Muslims that have moved out of the Middle East and moved into Europe.
Mm-hmm.
UAE just the other day said, we are no longer paying for residents of UAE to go be educated in the UK because we are afraid they are going to be radicalized in the UK and then come back to the UAE as radical Muslims. And so the Middle East is turning, right? There's I think it's one of the princes of Saudi Arabia has gone to Christianity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're starting to see these things, whereas the last 50 years, you've seen a rapid decline in Christian population in the Middle East. I know Iraq had a Christian population. It's all but gone. Egypt had it, all but gone, right? But you're seeing a rapid rise in Christianity in Iran right now with this regime change. So I think you're going to see some instability, but I think you are going to see a non-theocratic first one nation in the Middle East in a long, long time. And I think it's going to be a great change for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Can somebody get the memo to the liberal white females, please?
Yeah. Find
somebody needs to let them. Yeah.
Find me some support Iranian citizen flags in suburban front yards. If you find those, please take a picture.
Right.
You're not
you're not going to find any. You're not going to find any of those. Why would you?
Nope.
These are the people who marched, a couple months ago for no kings, and they're supporting a literal dictator, Venezuela, Maduro, of course.
And Iran, the Shah's.
And Iran, of course. Yeah.
Ayatollah. It's the same thing.
Same thing. So wave your little flags of the day of the week, and without any actual knowledge, right?
Those are people that need help. They need funding. They need military intervention. And President Trump has said it. If they are killing protesters and there's evidence of it, the U.S. is going to get involved. And good.
Yes.
I do know that one of the key leaders of the IRGC has already been killed by Iranian civilians, right?
Wow.
Part of their missile, I think it was their missile defense or missile application commander. He got killed at his house. So they are starting to take things into their own hands. But I think they deserve our support probably more so than most.
Absolutely. What an amazing time in history to witness, right? I mean, we're actually going to see that happen is pretty wild. And there's a beautiful video I saved and shared of what Iran looked like back in the 70s. And it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful and free, and people were just living.
Afghanistan was the same way.
Yeah.
If you go back and you look, right? And again, I spent a lot of time over there. Kabul was a modern city, had a modern subway, had a zoo, had all, women in mini skirts. They were going to university. Like, it was all of those things. And then, turmoil happens. In Iran, the case of Iran, it was the Shah being deposed and the Ayatollah being installed. And then Afghanistan, the Russians came in and they, tore the place apart. So I think the most interesting thing is it is literally the grandkids of the youth movement that overthrew the Shah. Those people's grandchildren are the people, you're talking 2 generations.
Yeah.
Their grandchildren are the ones that are flipping this thing over and turning it back to the way that it was.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I think everyone's worldview would be so much better if we actually understood and knew that history of those areas, right? Like, if we actually knew and had those comparisons. But the powers that be don't want our youth knowing these things, obviously. But oh my goodness, wow, we covered quite a few topics there, really good ones too. I'm glad we were able to discuss those things. I get antsy when we're away, when we take our break, and it's like all these things are happening. I'm like, I just want to talk about these things with Clay for everything. I just want to share them. So we got to talk about them. There will be more stuff to talk about next week. Nobody's going on vacation next week. We expect to be here next week. I'm not visiting the babies next week, unfortunately for me. So we thank you guys for waiting patiently for us to come back. I know you're all just sitting around waiting, and what do they call that? Twiddling your thumbs, waiting for us to come back. Right. I
actually had people message me and go, "Hey, I looked for, like on Friday last week, people were like, hey, I went to YouTube. I went to find you guys. I couldn't find you guys. No, we took an extra week off, sorry. So there were people looking for us.
Oh, that makes me feel good. Yay. Well, we are back. We are back and ready to party. And by party, I mean talk about all the current things going on in the world. Clay, it was great being back with you again. I look forward to next week. You want to close everybody out?
I got 2 things. 1, as always for me, keep moving, keep shooting. But 2, go Bears. How about them Bears?
How about them Bears? I love it. I love it. Yay. All right, guys, we will see you all next week. Take care. Join us in the comments section. Bye-bye.
Boy,